Hi, this is Amy Ward, and I would like to show you today how to get to the test preparation piece for PARCC so that you can help your students better practice for the PARCC test, so we don't let them not being able to navigate through the test impede their showing what they know. So here's what you want to do. In your URL bar, the website you want to go to is parcc.pearson.com. That's parcc.pearson.com. So once you get there, here's your home page, and you're going to go to the top toolbar that says Test Preparation. And there are three ways that you can do this. There are sample items, tutorials, and practice tests. So what are the difference between those three? Sample items. Sample items is just what it sounds like. They just give you sample sets. So, and they're not specific to the grade level, they go in grade level bands. So, for example, if I wanted to go work through some of those problems with my students, I would go to the grade 3 through 5 ELA item set, and notice that the rubric is there as well, so you and your students can work on that together. And you would go to Start Test Now, and you could either do this together or let your students do this independently, but please know that this is a grade level span, so it might not be exactly what you want to do. However, you could maybe work through some of these problems and go through the different kinds of sets students will see. They'll see some passages, like this is ELA, some passages and some choices, and then you could teach them, well, how to use their item eliminator tool, and maybe some sections where they need to realign the answers into kind of a drag and drop three details from the stories that help create a setting for this. So you would drag and drop it into the next spot. There we go, it's finally working. Yay. And it just walks you through the different kinds of test questions that students might see. The next type are tutorials. Tutorials are really good to maybe put up on your Smartboard or your Promethean board and kind of walk students through the different tools that they're going to be seeing. So, for example, the first one, a TestNav 8 tutorial, this was really to help your students see the different kinds of tools. So you would start Test Now. It is much longer. It's 24 questions. But what it does is it's not actually test questions. They're all like practicing the tools. So it's just a tutorial, and it helps you walk your students through what does the blue arrow mean. It means going to the next page. This is how you're going to sign in. This is where you need to test your audio to make sure it's working for you. It goes over all the toolbars and all of the different tools. Again, reviews the different tools that they'll have access to, how to review items using the review bar, what it looks like when they get to the end of the test, how to log out, how to use all the different tools in the toolbar, like the pointer tool and the protractor and the line tool and the calculator tool, etc. It walks them through all these different tools. So it may be something that you want to walk through together on. I'll leave that page. Okay, the next thing is the paper-based student tutorials. We do not have any students this year doing a paper-based test, so there's no need to do that. The online student tutorials, this is for the students will familiarize themselves instead of maybe you walking it through like the first one that I showed you. It is in grade level bands, and this the students would maybe do on their own, and they would, they would read, and then there are questions about the tools. So that is always an option. I personally like the first, the TestNav 8 tutorial that you could work through the students together using your Smartboard or Promethean board. The next thing are the accommodated tutorials. So if you have a student who is going to get text-to-speech, really that's the only, we don't have any students right now using sign language or the closed captioning tool. So for the text-to-speech tool, there are two, it's really important for students to get to use that. If you have a student only, like 0.5% of students, like only maybe 2 students in our entire district get the text-to-speech tool for the ELA. So SPED teachers, if you have a student who has been approved by the state to get this accommodation, then you would definitely have them practice with this tool. So you would just click on it. Students have the ability, once they start the test, I'm just going to start it, start section. The big thing that students have to get used to is they have the ability to, they have to click on the button to have it proceed, and then they have the option to speed up the speech or slow it down. So I'm just going to do a couple of passes here so you get the gist of the speed. They would click it.
Read the passage from quotation, the cricket and the cougar, end quotation, and answer the question. Read the passage from quotation, the cricket and the cougar. Read the passage from quotation, the cricket and the cougar, end quotation, and answer the questions. From quotation, the cricket and the cougar, end quotation. By Catherine Chandler. 1. One day the cougar was out walking in the woods. As he was stepping near an old rotten log, he heard a tiny voice say, quotation, oh.
So it's important for those students to get used to those tools. I'll leave that page. I would like to show a math example because most students who have text-to-speech will only have it for math and science. So for the math example, again, students will have to start the test. There's only 2 questions. They'll have to press the play button over here. It does not happen automatically. Again, they have all the tools here that they would have normally. They have the ability to make the speed of the voice go faster or slower. So
For a school field trip, 72 students will be traveling in 9 vans. Each van will hold an equal number. For a school field trip, 72 students will be traveling in 9 vans. For a school field trip, 72 students will be traveling.
So it's important that you teach students how to use that tool. Oops. Okay, so the last tool on the same page that you probably want to go over are the math equation editors. So if there's a constructed response and the student has to write out an equation, they have to use this equation editor. So there's an equation editor guide, which is a really good 1-page tips that you can print off for yourself, and that will help you teach this. You can put it up on your Smartboard or your Promethean board to teach with. Then you can practice using that guide. You can practice with the students. So let's say grades 6 through 8. And start test. Since there are only 3 questions to practice with. It will give you some basic directions, and then you will go to the next page. And then it will allow you to enter in the different kinds of equations or the different symbols that you can add in. And some of the math editor tools are just for numbers. And then the second examples, students could use words and numbers. Okay. So you could help students learn that tool, and then there are some tutorials if you wanted students to sit in front of the computer and practice it themselves. So they'll give them a little bit more questions, and the students can read that and walk through it, or you can walk it through with them up on your Smartboard or Promethean board, and then let students practice those. Okay, and then so the third kind of practice item is just that, a practice test. And this is per grade level, so you can go to the math practice test and you can go exactly to that grade level or that assessment and say, okay, I want my algebra kids to practice those algebra units, and they can actually, there are 3 units just like they are in on the actual test, and you probably don't want to put that much time into it, but you may want to give them a sampling. However, you need to choose the right one. So the computer-based Unit 1 test is for most of our students. TTS is text-to-speech version with no graphics. Text-to-speech version with graphics, you need to know which accommodation your student will have. Those are pretty much the only accommodations that our students will be using. We don't have any other students doing any of these other accommodations. So our students, a majority, will be just taking the computer-based Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 test, or text-to-speech with no graphics, or text-to-speech with graphics. If you're unsure, ask your counselor, ask your special education teacher. They should have an idea. So those are the 3 ways that you can practice with your students to get them prepared. Remember, to allow your students to practice early is a good way to just get your students used to the format of the test and using the tools and navigating. You can help them sign on, but once they sign on, you can't help them in any other part of the test. So if your student raises their hand and says, I don't know how to do this drag and drop thing, you can't help them with that. So that's why we practice ahead of time. We don't want this to be a barrier. We just want our students to show what they know. So that's your little tutorial on the different kinds of test prep that you can help your students with. Have a good day.